obviously a big series matchup coming up. We moved it ahead one day due to Easter, which means a short week for us getting ready. And of course, we travel tomorrow morning out to Tuscaloosa. Excited for it. It's always a great place to play, great environment, big crowds, everything you want to see in a top 10 matchup. Very excited to play them. They're actually playing very well this year. They're hitting offensively very well, and also defensively, their pitching is doing a great job. So, three kids that, or two kids that throw close to 70, and one in the upper 60s. So, pretty good pitching staff we'll be facing.
All right, Thomas, go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us.
Yep.
You guys hadn't lost in so long. I had to go look back when the last time it was. How have the players, how have y'all responded? Did you notice any letdown, or just how's the team responded to the rare loss?
Well, it's hard to say. We haven't practiced yet since Sunday, of course. We have Monday's our day off, so today is our first practice. So, it's business as usual. We said, hey, let's, it's those things happen for a reason. There's no losing if you're learning, and we'll see if they take my advice on that one. So, uh, you know, um, just looking forward to what we need to take care of, not so much what's back. There's some things that happened last weekend. We'll review and tape this afternoon. Looking back at it, some defensive lapses there, some pitching mistakes. Offensively, we didn't quite get clicking until late in the third game there, and we got out hit all three series. So, just looking at it on paper, we got some work to do to try and get some better offense going throughout the game, some better clutch pitching in situations. Even though our defense played tremendous at times, we had some great highlight reel plays. Notably Reese Atwood and Ashton Maloney. A couple of throws from the outfield there that were just spot on. So there's always some good and some bad, and just we got to focus on what we can control.
Paige? Because it's a shorter week, you're going to Tuscaloosa on Thursday, and playing on Thursday. What do you expect from your pitching, especially with Tegan pitching so much this past weekend? Are you still expecting to start her on Thursday?
Yeah, looking at her overall numbers, they're not that high really in comparison to a lot of other pitchers in the league or around the country. It just seems that way because we pitched her a little more in that condensed period, but we've kind of been cognizant of making sure she's not overworked, and she was fine. So of course, I haven't met with her today to see how she's feeling, but if she needs to take a lighter day today, and she'll get most of tomorrow off as well, then be ready to go Thursday, hopefully. So this still our plan or intent to, pitch her at least half the innings this weekend.
Thomas?
You mentioned Reese's defense. Because of her bat, it seems like sometimes that gets overlooked, but how has she developed as a defensive catcher since she's been with you?
Well, yeah, I mean, just looking at her numbers of people throwing out, bases caught stealing. I mean, she threw out a kid that's had 17 of 17 stolen bases, and pretty easily, and then picked another ball and threw somebody out, then had a pickoff. So she continues to take that as part of her, pride in the way she plays. She loves to be a good catcher back there. She's solid. She takes a lot of foul tips. Being a taller kid back there, it's hard to miss that target. Um, but she continues to work on a craft, and that's what it is. Catching's a craft. It's a great thing. Now, there's some things we can work on to maybe help as well, but real proud of the way how tough she is back there and how durable she is.
Paige? You talked about Ashton Maloney on defense, and she's been quite huge in the outfield this whole season. But offensively, like she really hasn't been making a ton of contact with her bat until this past weekend. What have you seen from her? Her change, like, was it a change in mentally, physically? What was that?
Yeah, I think her contact's been there, but it just hasn't been finding the holes. Has she, and part of that is, not making solid contact. I guess is probably the word, not as good as she wants anyways. And part of that's been chasing a little bit. And so she started to make some adjustments of not expanding the strike zone, and was getting better results as a result of it.
Eric?
Coach, when you see Alabama, what stands out about them that's different from this year's Alabama team that maybe some of the recent Alabama teams? It looks like their pitching's a little deeper, or is it their outfield, or the faster offense? What stands out about them when you watch them?
Well, I think their pitching definitely stands out as being deeper, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, they have a 984 fielding percentage, so they're really fielding the ball pretty well. If you're getting that kind of that kind of whip, that pitching pressure, it's not very high. It's under one, I think, for most of their pitchers. There's not a lot of pressure on their defense, so they're able to, when there is pressure, they're able to take care of it with their defensive side of things. And then just some power numbers seem to be a little bit higher this year. Again, I think that I don't know where the preseason polls had them for the SEC, but I don't think it was in the top 2 or 3, right? And so they've really done a good job of playing well this year for sure. In all facets of the game.
Thomas?
That winning streak had gotten so much attention. Is there any pressure off now that the streak's over?
No, I don't think so, because we're not looking at that. I mean, I didn't even know how many games we've won in a row, and maybe the players were, and that's maybe a better question for them. But as far as I was looking, I'm just worried about our next game and how well we're playing the game. And we continue to tell the team that it's not so much what the scoreboard says, it's how well we played it. And they know that about me. So that was really what the focus was.
Eric?
With such a quick turnaround on a short week, how much do you balance as a staff with your players as far as being on the field, practicing versus, hey, giving them kind of make sure they get their rest, and maybe it's more of a film week than a practice week? How do you balance that out on a unique week like this?
Well, we're not going to change anything per se. We're going to come in and do probably 1 hour of film work here this afternoon, then go out and take our usual defensive reps and then our typical hitting reps. And then tomorrow night, when we travel, we'll go out and we'll hit at night and do some defense on their field to get accustomed to it, and then just go. So it's just one less day of reps, you would say.
What do you tell your young pitchers, when things aren't going their way, maybe they're not getting certain calls from the umpires? What do you tell them after the fact and keep that confidence up for them when maybe they hit some adversity and some things that maybe don't go their way?
Well, you control the controllables. You can't control what that's going to happen. Well, we should know. I mean, you can't keep beating your head against the wall if you're not getting a certain call. You've got to adjust to it and maybe work to other parts of the zone. And then understand that there's 90 versus 1 out there, and you've got to trust your defense. Going deep into counts is not going to help. And when we've got in trouble, I keep saying that we're throwing over 25 pitches per inning when we're getting in trouble and we're getting deep counts, and we just got to try and avoid those types of innings.
You mentioned Reese Atwood at defense. You coached Gwen Svekis, one of the best defensive catchers ever. Is there any similarities there between the two from a defensive catcher standpoint? Because, Reese is now finally starting to get her just due, I think, from a lot of people on the outside about how great of a defensive catcher she is.
Yeah, I think that they both have their times, and it's really hard to compare one to the other. They're kind of different, like body types and everything else. Reese puts one knee down, for example. Reese was traditional. So there's not a lot of similarities there as far as that go, but they both were really good at receiving. Very few pass balls, ability to throw people out, all the tangibles that you really want in a good catcher.
Paige? We saw Katie and Reese twice this weekend, and then in the midweek game, they both hit consecutive home runs. How do you see them feed off of each other? Do they watch each other in a specific way and respond to pitches? What do you see from them?
I have a certain call for that. No, just kidding, right? So they're when they're swinging well, they're swinging well. It's like anything else, and it's just happenstance really. But maybe they got a little Bash Sisters thing going, So it's kind of like maybe a rivalry. You hit one, I've got to hit one, So they have those kind of like rivalries going, but. It's certainly, I don't mind it at all. I was just waiting for Hannah to hit another one. That would have been 2 times 3.
Tyler?
Yeah, things got a little testy last time out, and there was a pretty good offensive comeback stuff with the umpire. But what is the predominant message in the locker room that you're preaching, that the players are preaching going into such a high octane matchup?
We, just control the controllers. Keep stay where your feet are. Just really, don't make it bigger than what it is. I mean, control your heartbeat. There's going to be situations where we need you to step up, and situations where you may need to shake it off and have you use your reset, use your mental tools, your ability to come back to the present moment instead of thinking about what happened or what's going to happen. I mean, those are the things that most of the great athletes are able to do. They're able to reframe anything that happens to them. And there's a lot of things that can happen or not happen. So it's just understanding that we win this as a team. We don't win this as an individual, and be ready to play for your team. I think that's what Tegan did a great job of. She started that first game and got knocked out of the game and was ready to come back in for her team. Not worrying about what her ERA was or how many hits they had or how many runs she gave up. She didn't care. She just wanted to win that game. And I think you could use that for any one of our players in those situations, hopefully.
Eric?
What's a couple of keys this weekend, this series that's going to determine the success of this weekend for your team that you have to do?
Well, we're going to have to be able to score runs off Alabama's pitching. I mean, like I said, they've got high velocity. They've got up and down pitches. And they got three of the main arms, and they could throw the other couple at us too. You don't know what they're going to do for sure, but just that ability to get on top, and be more consistent throughout the lineup. We've got to get some production from our bottom half of the lineup. I think the top half is starting to come into its own now. I think Reese is starting to find some footing again. Stewie had a tough weekend, but she was on such a great streak there. It was hard to maintain that pace. Then of course, the emergence of Vivi Martinez, she got to keep going. So we got to keep people hot in certain situations and certain places in the lineup. And when one doesn't work, another one's got to pick the slack up. So that's going to be a key for us, is to make the most of the opportunities that we do get. Obviously, our base running, I think, will be fine. We'll be okay there. Defensively, we got to, again, we can't implode and have two or three errors in an inning. That's just not going to work. So we can't do that and put extra pressure on our pitching. And then we've got to get some good performance out of our secondary pitching. Tegan can't do it all by herself, and we need to be able to have somebody step up to be able to help that load. And Hannah Wells did a great job of that, by the way, in that second game. That's exactly what we needed right there.
Do we have any other final questions for Coach? Coach, you're good to go, and we'll have Leanne Good
Awesome.
be joining us next.